Walker Wonkite. I'm already into the 420, damn it.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at lifestyleradio.net and 420radio.ca, as well as at Spreaker, TuneIn Radio, Showcast, plus here at the store at Canada's in downtown Camelford, where I am situated in the front window. Tonight I am joined by my joint host, Elisa Yashishin. And we have you a guest, somebody who's an artist, an advocate, and they're also a patient. But before we hear their story, and we always like to share people's stories, because when you share someone's stories, you help educate others. So tonight we're going to do that. And first I'm going to talk to Alicia. Hi, Alicia. How are you?
Hi. I'm well. How are you?
Well, are we sure you're well?
Excuse me. Well, yeah, unfortunately, I'm suffering from the Saskatchewan influenza virus, and so I feel like I got hit by a truck, to be honest.
Really?
How about winter?
Happy winter.
Well, it's that season, right?
Yeah.
And I guess I guess a reality check for me to kind of slow down and be like, hey, because like when you get colds and viruses, your immune system is compromised, right? So with my Crohn's disease, I have to be cognizant of taking care of myself. So
you sure do.
Working fine.
Well,
so I stayed home today, and I nursed myself, and I went to see my homeopath, and who was pro-cannabis, by the way. And so now I'm on the road to recovery.
Good. And you'll be back at the school with the little kids tomorrow.
On Friday.
Friday. Okay, good stuff. Hey,
I have class tomorrow, so.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, we're going to get into a little bit of discussion about some classes in our news, but first we're going to talk about New Brunswick. As we're seeing, the provinces are rolling out some of their cannabis policies, and I see New Brunswick mentioned today that they are going to open 20 operations in 15 communities in 2018. 20 operations. Like, how is that going to be enough? You're going to take a big city and put a few in it and then not allow any in another place? Like, where there will be even enough there to serve their client base?
You know, that reeks of, like, backfire 101. Like,
it does.
It's going to backfire.
Yeah.
They're going to be like Las Vegas and importing cannabis from Canada because they can't supply their market right now in Las Vegas, even after the shooting, probably more so.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Well, they say here that they're going to place these businesses more than 300 meters from a school, which is, I think, what some of the dispensaries or even the regulations are out in Vancouver, Victoria. And they know all the display will be under glass. Well, yeah, glass helps with safety, prevents theft, stuff like that. But this is what I found really interesting, was that customers will need to show identification to prove they are legal age before even getting into the store.
Well, you know, like you want to talk about bureaucratic red tape that's meant to be a failure. There you go. That's a fine example. It'll never work. And it's like, who dreams this stuff up? Because, like, you know, like it's just like illogical. Like I'm like at a loss for words. It's just like seriously, like who dreams this up? And on my tax dollars to dream this up.
So, yeah.
Go and hire someone from the community who knows what they're talking about. No, exclude the community. What do they know? It's like, well, So
Yeah. Sounds like the stores are going to be, they're going to be like 2,500 square foot stores, no decorations or advertising. They want it to be a pleasant experience. So why don't you put some decoration and advertising on it in order to help them make it a pleasant experience? Otherwise, it sounds pretty stale to me, doesn't it?
Well, and I mean, like, where are you coming from, like, with these store concepts and this and that? Like, have you ever even done the market research to indicate what consumers actually desire out of a dispensary? Like, I mean, it is asinine, and like it is. Like how do you put words to something that's so outrageous?
Yeah.
Like,
you can
as far
see
as I'm
that.
concerned, once legalization takes place, it should just be a free for all.
Yeah.
Everyone can just go and do what they wish, and then we'll see what happens later, per se.
It's the dispensaries have been operating for years now. There's never been really any super problem. It's only been lately where they've been hearing about any thievery, being held up. But other than that, geez, they did talk to dispensaries years ago. I don't know why they still don't go that way. They seem to be really like, this is it, trying to be airtight, checking ID before you even go in the place. They don't check for ID to go into the liquor store. Except for your purchase. Checking at purchase is one thing, but checking at the doorway. What was that, Wayne?
As if it were some kind of exclusive club.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well let's move away from that, just for those people on the East Coast, just so you have your ID ready before you walk in the door, so you can buy your cannabis. And this is a next topic here that I want to touch on. Is something that it sounds like you can really agree with this topic, and that has to do with how will Canadian universities handle legal cannabis in Maclean's magazine. They talk here about a student who had a 2.4 grade average, and they're worried about him getting access to cannabis because universities have a zero policy. But this fellow went from 2.4 to 3.9. You know anything about that?
Well, I think that there could be some reefer madness going on in terms of academia and universities, because let's not forget that cannabis has largely been a forbidden topic to study in university settings. We have studies, but those studies are very biased and they disadvantage cannabis, and that's why they were allowed. So anything that says, hey, no, wait, take a step back, that cannabis is good, like a Dr. Sanchez standpoint, if you will, is just being looked at or considered by universities. However, in Saskatchewan, at the University of Saskatchewan, we have a researcher here who has gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars in research grants, by the way, but he's looking at the uses of cannabis and such, but he's using Canamed products.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to demonize a plant and really discredit it, you're going to use the shittiest weed that you can find.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the only thing that breaks my heart in that regard. But maybe authenticity will show through in terms of those studies. But bringing cannabis to the academia forefront is very important, because we're stupid when it comes to cannabis. We don't know anything about it socially. We know hardly anything about it criminally, because we just criminalize it.
Right.
Illegal, you're a dummy, or you know what I mean? So we don't know a lot about cannabis that we should. And in terms of grades and stuff, I can attest to that. When I used to take opiates, my papers were mediocre. When I started smoking reefer, my papers, I'm a 90 student now. So what's you know what I mean? Look at the difference. So I totally agree with cannabis being brought out in a university setting, but in a positive way. Give cannabis a fair chance. Don't demonize it before it walks in the door.
Well, just so you know, there is a list of universities here on the article. If you want to throw out the name of the university you go to, I'll tell you how many students there are using cannabis, percentage-wise. I'm just looking for a university. Well, you have to tell me, University of Saskatchewan? University of Saskatchewan?
Yeah.
Yeah, 32% of overall.
Use cannabis on campus or not on campus, but they're cannabis users.
Just use it, yeah. They don't say whether it's on campus or not. Yeah, 32% and daily users. I'm just trying to find you again. There's only 3, just so you know. Only 3% of you. And the highest is only 6.
Oh.
The highest is only 6, so it's not like it sounds like it's a big epidemic going on in universities to me.
Yeah, but those are reported numbers. Don't forget the people that they haven't surveyed that we don't know. They're still in the closet.
Yeah,
that's like cannabis really come out, right?
Yeah. Just for those that are worried, overall, it says here that there's 63% of university students who never use cannabis. I would have thought that really, eh? That's the report. That's like you say, that's how it was reported, right? The people don't want to speak up. All right.
But I wonder, of that percentage, how many have ingested chemical drugs?
Oh, yeah. You got to stick around, Wayne.
We give babies Tylenol for crying out loud. Like, we're infested with chemicals which harm us and maim us.
That's right.
Anyways,
exactly.
It's another topic.
It's another topic, another day. We running a little long here. We should bring our guests into the program. And our guest is a person who I described as an artist, an advocate, and a patient. So I'd like to welcome Lyss England to the Pace Radio Show. Hello, Liz. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. How are you? What up?
Hey, how are you tonight?
Oh, I'm not too shabby.
Yeah?
Fighting off whatever's going around, but fighting it.
Yes, got the defenses up, keeping it back. And this is, the time of year. We're dealing with temperatures that are going up and down, and you got little kids that are touching everything. And, things can spread.
Yeah, and I have fibromyalgia, so I'm super sensitive to the weather changing and stuff like that. So the change of season is kind of my worst nightmare.
Oh, yes. I've heard that before from patients, how the weather affects them. Yeah, a lot of people are affected by it. We're not in that southern climate where it's always nice and warm.
No, definitely not.
No. All right, well, to get things going here, basically, I'm just going to throw a question out to you, and we'll just, the next 90 minutes will just fly right by. You won't even know the time's going. Okay. Actually, you and I, it's the first time you and I have talked. We've communicated via email several times. So, and you don't know Alicia, so why don't you give us a bit of an idea, rundown about a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, I manage CC Nexus, a wholesale cannabis seed company. We're connected to True North Seed Bank, which is the retail side of everything that we do. So that's what I do professionally, and I'm really excited about working in the cannabis industry and having a bit of an impact with everything that's going on there. Outside of work, I'm on the board of directors and I chair the fundraising committee for Greenwood Coalition, which is a grassroots charity located in Port Hope. And then on the side of that, I also do a lot of writing and performance stuff and visual art and fun things like that.
Cool. Well, why don't we dig in a little bit deeper into some of that stuff?
Sounds like...
What do you think, Alicia? Sound good too?
Oh, yes, I'm very curious. I have so many questions.
I've been lurking you both on Facebook, and it's just great.
Right. Okay, well, we'll start with the cannabis issues here, or the cannabis stuff first. You mentioned you're a patient, fibro. Have you got any other? Some of us have more than one ailment. How do you find cannabis helps you along that line?
Yeah, so my kind of cannabis patient story is I've lived with chronic pain literally as long as I can remember, but as with many women, especially with chronic pain, I never really got answers and didn't ever feel very supported through the mainstream medical system. And then when I was 19, I was hit by a car crossing the street, which kind of kicked everything that I had been experiencing way into full gear. And it turns out that event had actually caused nerve damage, and that resulted in neuropathy. And it was through that I got diagnosed with fibro. But I also live with bipolar 2 and obsessive compulsive disorder, and have dealt with mood issues and anxiety related stuff my whole life, more or less. So I'm one of those people who is really lucky to experience the benefits of cannabis, both as a person with chronic pain and as someone living with mental illness, which some people who live with pain, I know it exasperates their mental illness, and it's not always the right fit for everyone. So I'm pretty lucky in that way.
Yeah, and some people are concerned with cannabis dealing with mental health issues, but you're finding obviously a benefit of that.
Absolutely. For me, and I'd love to get a little bit more into kind of how important I think this is, but I think that educating yourself on different strains and also having multiple points of access so that you can access multiple strains is really important for many reasons, depending on the symptoms that you want to treat. But like, I find that if I use a lot of sativa dominant strains, that affects my mood negatively. Like it makes me a lot more anxious, can even make me feel kind of hypomanic.
Yeah.
Or kind of kick me into that headspace. Yeah. But knowing that about myself, I just generally steer clear of those strains, and find indica strains particularly super, super helpful, both for pain and for mood stabilization.
I agree with you. I'm not dealing with any mental health issues that I'm aware of. I wonder, maybe sometimes there might be some ADHD in there. But even my wife notices when I consume the sativas, everything's different. Mood's different, everything. It's the indicas that, like you say, it keeps the calming effect, keeps you focused on stuff.
It's so cool though, because it's so dependent on the person. Like I know that my partner prefers sativas because he finds that the way that the couch lock associated with the indicas it makes him feel really anxious and uncomfortable. So it's kind of cool that I think it's a matter of, like I said, multiple points of access.
Yeah.
Figure out what works for you.
How about you, Alicia? Do you tend to lean one way or the other between the sativas or the indicas?
I'm really indica dominant, but I'm getting into the sativas. But I want to take a step back. There was something that you had said about like chronic pain can affect your mental health. And, I've never perceived it in that way. So I appreciate that point that you made in regards to that.
Yeah. I think that there's such a huge link between physical and mental health. I was talking to a friend of mine recently, actually, who has Crohn's, and we were joking. It's like a chicken or an egg situation. Which comes first, the anxiety or the flare up?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
Alicia, and I just so you know, Alicia and I both have Crohn's disease.
Yeah, it's a tough one to deal with, and I know
it is.
Because one of the fibro symptoms is IBS, so it's not the extreme scale that you guys are living with, but I can relate to those digestive system issues for sure.
Yeah. Yes, have to check the menu, review everything before you walk in the door, see if you can eat it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So when it comes to, say, some people have preference when it comes to consuming cannabis. I know some patients that want very little or no THC. Some patients, I have a patient who I deal with as a friend and as a patient end of it all, where they, don't even smoke. They are capsule or an edible consumer.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, do you find an advantage of medicating one way or or another, or you have a preference?
Yeah, so the way that I have found seems to be working best for me is I take a CBD, like a CBD oil or a CBD tincture in the morning, first thing. Take a dose of that, and then I usually end up smoking because I love smoking.
No problem.
Honest with you. I do also have like a CBD vape that I like to keep in my desk, and I've got a THC topical cream that I use for my arms and my hands when the neuropathy flares up, because I do a lot of sitting at a desk typing. But I pretty much use those things consistently, but smoking pretty much as a PRN, and that's what keeps me going kind of throughout the day.
Yeah, as I say, it is faster activating, but some people just don't like the idea of, they look at smoking as bad. They don't want to add anything to their lungs. And then some people can't smoke. I have a patient who I deal with that has one lung. So, they, are hesitant a little bit here and there on smoking. It's not if they don't, but they're not getting involved in a big, fog session, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can totally, I definitely encourage people, like, if you don't love smoking, probably don't smoke. Mm-hmm. My dad actually is in remission from throat cancer, and he has gotten really interested in the tinctures. So I've been making tinctures for him over the last while.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
It's nice that there's all these alternative ways, and they've all been discovered through advocates. People who are out there trying all these things and experimenting and coming up with things that work. And it's great that there are these alternatives to allow people who can't smoke to be able to still get access to the medication.
For sure.
All right, Lisa, you got any questions? Just jump in whenever. You're very quiet.
I want to go. I'm diverting the conversation, and I want to go to gender rights because I'm really curious about your perspective on this or what this means. So can you take it there?
Yeah, totally.
And how and you can mix in how your cannabis fuels your activism, right? Like you can touch on that as well. So I'd love to hear more about that.
For sure, yeah. So my undergrad was actually in gender studies. But while So while I was actually going through my degree for gender studies, was also the time that I was diagnosed with all of my stuff. So initially the way that the doctors kind of reacted to things was they just put me on a whole bunch of pharmaceuticals, and the whole time I was going, okay, well, can you please sign off on my medical marijuana prescription so that I can, not ever get in trouble and have my career ruined if I ever get caught trying to medicate. So that was something that was all going on during my undergrad. So there's a lot of connections there with like feelings around my body and living with pain, and also like I kind of had mentioned before, the way that women with chronic pain, and I'm sure you can probably relate to this, Alicia, but statistically, women with chronic pain are told that it's all in our heads, especially when you also are living with comorbid mental illnesses that were diagnosed first. People just told me I was crazy for years. So
see, I was the opposite. Like for me, I was overprescribed opiate pills because I legitimately physically had, like diagnoses and findings. But for me, it was kind of like the opposite experience. It was like, here, take this. Like I had drug pushers, aka doctors, who would give me whatever I want, like literally anything, everything, and overprescribe those amounts. Like I'm like, to be honest, I'm like grateful that I'm here today because of the amount of overprescribing of narcotic drugs that had taken place during my Crohn's career. Like it's almost should be like illegal.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. It's really amazing. Like, even though they were telling me that what I was feeling was not as extreme as what I was feeling or whatever, they were still pushing drugs on me like crazy. Like I was still on tons of drugs, and they would have my prescription for years.
Yeah, I was taking 32 pills a day plus doing a weekly injection.
Yeah,
me too. I was 32 pills. Yeah.
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 You know, instead of having a Monday to Sunday calendar, those little pop-up things that you put your pills in every day.
Yeah,
I use a morning, afternoon, and evening bowl.
Oh, great. Yeah, it took years. Like, literally, I ended up having to, the way that I ended up actually getting off all the meds was I literally went off everything cold turkey, which is like the stupidest thing you can do, and changed my diet.
Oh my God, I did that too, though.
Did you? I literally just like threw my hands up and was like, "Okay, please." My like family doctor who I'd been with since I was like a baby, I was like, just send all my paperwork to this other doctor who I have found who's compassionate. So it definitely was a process for me too. But yeah,
and
no.
So you basically you tossed all your pharmaceuticals. You want to get it?
Okay, well, but the thing is take me to when you went cold turkey though. Because for me, when I went cold turkey, like it's kind of funny how you're like, I did this cold turkey, and for me, it was the same experience. I was like, you know what, I'm done with this. These pills make me a shitty person.
Yeah.
They do shitty things to me. I don't like. I'm not that person that these pills want me to be, and I was done. But the thing that was like broke my heart was that my body didn't know that, my mind knew that, and then it was like we withdrew, and every day, like. I like muscle spasms and just like seriously, I probably would have like harmed myself in some way if I didn't have cannabis. Cannabis was the only thing that brought me through that hell on earth.
Yeah.
And for that reason, that's why I owe my activism to cannabis, right? Like just like to get off of that. So is that a medicine?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Liz, you basically did the same thing as Alicia. You just tossed your pill, like you said, and just used the cannabis and got through withdrawals and everything by using cannabis.
Yep. It really made the hugest difference. Like you guys were talking earlier about cannabis use in university, and I really actually identified with what you were talking about, Alicia, because the only course I've ever failed in my entire life was when I was on the highest number and the highest amount of meds. And as soon as I came off all the meds and was just relying on cannabis and diet and lifestyle and taking care of myself holistically, same thing. I was getting 90s all across the board. So yeah, no, I can really relate to how beneficial that's been. Like my doctor now calls me his miracle patient because I'm working full time and I'm volunteering, worth, a part-time job and then all my other stuff on the side. And it's made the world of difference for me.
It sounds like something that we can almost say to everybody, and that's that cannabis can improve your quality of life. Mm-hmm. And obviously that's what it's done with you.
For sure. It actually, it was really brought to my attention earlier this summer. My partner and a friend of ours, we went to the States to go and see a concert. And silly me, I'm thinking, oh, you know what? Like, I'll just take care of myself in every other way possible. I won't even try and bring my cannabis. I won't try and bring a prescription. My friend had said that she had arranged it with people when we were there. So when we were there, we're going to have some. So I thought I could do the 16-hour drive without cannabis. And it really hit me during that trip how huge a part of my pain management strategy using cannabis is. Because without access to that, I feel like I have all of my medical issues relatively well managed. And I didn't have it managed at all when I was away and without access.
Without getting your medication. Yeah.
I can identify for sure. My body's off the rails when I can't access like the right type of cannabis, for sure.
Totally.
All right, ladies.
Sure.
Hey, ladies, it's break time. Time for commercials, pay some bills, all that type of stuff. And tonight, as we go to break, this is the last program before Halloween. Because Halloween is Halloween's next Tuesday, right? So because of that, we're going to hear some creepy sounding guy. He almost sounds like Boris, I think. But we're going to hear him sing about some special hash that he's got. And then you're going to go on the commercial break. And then when we get back, Alicia and I will continue our talk with Lyss England. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at lifestyleradio.net and .ca. See you in 5.
Hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
I was working in the lab late one night when I heard the gurgle of a water pipe. So I turned to see my monster in a cloud of smoke, who said, "This shit ain't bad. Here, have a toke."
We smoked some hash.
We smoked some monster hash.
Some monster hash.
It was his personal...
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
CTCP now operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CTCP.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck, Crop King, and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
Parted in the castle with the living dead. Mouths were dry and eyes were red. The ghouls and goblins shrieked and screamed. Won't somebody please pass the Visine?
They smoked some hash.
They smoked some monster
Some
hash
monster hash.
from Frankie's personal
We
stash.
smoked some hash.
And they all
Yes, tonight on the program, I am joined by our guest, cannabis patient, Lyss England, plus my joint host, Alicia Yashishin, from spooky Saskatchewan. Hi, Lyss and Alicia.
You want to hear something really? You want to hear really something scary? It's snowing.
What?
No.
You're not allowed to use that language on the radio program, you know.
It's the weather report.
That's it. You're all canceled.
Snow. Oh, jeepers. We don't want to hear about any of that around here for a while, anyways. Let's just hope you're not getting any accumulation.
Well, it seems to be melting, so supposedly it won't stay, but yeah.
Still, it's coming out of
nature.
Yeah, you're seeing it fall out of the sky. That's no good. That's no good. Okay, before the program, before the commercial break, I mean, we were talking to Lyss here about her cannabis use as a patient. Lyss.
Yeah.
What do you think, how Bill C-45, pros and cons of the bill, or how it would affect you, as a patient?
So my biggest concern is I'm licensed under the ACMPR, and I don't want that to change because I have a pretty big license. I do use a lot of cannabis. And like I mentioned before, having access to being able to control the strains that I'm using is really important to me. So that's really important, is that doesn't get affected. And although they're saying right now that they're going to be keeping the ACMPR the way that it is, I don't fully believe that's the way that it's going to be once everything comes under review.
The one thing that I do know is that they said that in the documents, they said that after 5 years, they were going to review the designated grower part of it all. But as far as removing grow licenses, I haven't read or heard anything along that line. It was just a designated grower section that they were looking at.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully that won't be an issue, but that's my biggest concern right now.
Yeah, and I get a lot of bad stories about some designated growers, but I also know there's a lot of good designated growers out there. So I'd hate to see some patients lose good designated growers because of a change in the program. Yeah.
And there are so many people like myself who aren't homeowners at this point in our lives, and we need to sometimes have someone grow for us because we don't have someone who lives close by that we can, just use their property or whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, you could live in an apartment building, or you've signed a contract or a lease that says, you won't do this or do that. Correct? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't possibly have space to grow my license in my apartment. Like, that would be my whole apartment.
Well, what's the problem?
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly.
Keep the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really interesting that they're trying to basically force people to smoke it.
Yeah.
Which has been an ongoing issue.
Arthur Smith says that it's unconstitutional to make someone smoke cannabis, so that argument's been debunked by the Supreme Court of Canada. So they're just trying to go and perpetuate that. Legalistically, that's illegal to say that.
Yeah.
That you have to smoke it.
Yeah.
You know? So if somebody's trying to spew that, be like, oh no, R versus Smith, the edible case said that no. It's unconstitutional to tell people that they have to smoke cannabis, their medicine.
I wonder if that was why the government all of a sudden come out and said that they would have edibles available within a year's time of legalization.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're a little bit.
You see how they try and they're so misinformed that they malign things, and then it's like, what? Just cannabis being prohibited. It was just because someone, you know what I mean?
Yeah, every time I read something new that they're releasing, or I actually go through and sit down and read the actual legislation, I just I keep on coming back to, who are the advisors on this? Clearly not Christians. It just seems like there's so much missing, and they really are very misinformed. So I can see there being a huge process of constantly having to challenge the laws on the basis that they are unconstitutional in so many different ways, the way that they're trying to set them up right now.
It's like a make-work project for the government. You see, when you have to challenge all of this crappy law that they create, it creates money and revenue for everyone involved in the judicial system. Those are the only people who are profiting off of that, and who loses? The everyday Canadian citizen who pays the taxes, which pays their wages, but we and they forget that.
Yeah.
Why? And so that's activism is so important, right? Getting in the face of the government and saying no, you're wrong, and know your role.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. It's unfortunate that we have to advocate for ourselves, and I think that it's just inevitable.
But isn't that the luxury of being an activist? Sorry to cut you off there, though, but you know what I mean. We often see advocacy as this long process, because it is. But isn't that the beauty of being an activist, is that you get to have a voice and you get to stand up and be brave and roar that voice? That's what I fancy about being an activist. And it's you respect that voice. You know what I mean? Because that's my protected ground, because medical cannabis is a protected ground under the charter. So I have a right to roar my medical cannabis voice.
Totally.
Right? Sorry, but anyway, and so you were saying what activism means to you, or?
It's been really interesting for me because, like we were kind of talking about before, I chose to go into feminist activism. I've done a lot of work around sexual assault survivors. And things along those lines, and anti-rape violence education type things. And I just recently worked on a big Take Back the Night event in Port Hope that was really, really successful and really powerful. That was kind of what I chose to go into activism-wise.
Let's take a step back. What was it, Take Back the Night? What's that about?
So Take Back the Night is a 50-year-old movement, international movement, about women feeling safe from, literally it means for women alone at night, without the fear of being attacked or harassed or experiencing some sort of sexual violence. But it's kind of extended over the years to be a way of communicating about gender-based violence as a larger issue, and gender roles and things along those lines. So in Port Hope, we have never had a Take Back the Night event before. Coburg does one that's actually run by Kawartha Sexual Assault Center up in Peterborough, and they're really great. But I do feel like maybe the Peterborough event that they do gets more energy than the Coburg one. So unless you want to go to Peterborough, there's not like a super, super awesome grassroots style Take Back the Night thing happening. So a group of us who had actually gone to the Coburg one last year kind of got together this year at the end of the summer and were like, hey, maybe we should do this in Port Hope, not associated with any organization, like literally just as a group of people in the community getting together to do this. So we ended up with a really solid committee of people. And yeah, that happened last Thursday. There was about 100 people who came out, which is pretty great for a first-time event. A bunch of people shared their stories about their experiences. There were also a whole bunch of different women musicians kind of sharing some of their work that they felt was relevant. And yeah, no, it was really, really powerful thing for sure.
You find that sort of like what we do here, we talk to people about the medical use of cannabis, which helps educate other people. People are showing up at that type of event, telling their story, which helps educate people as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that certainly is a subject that is really important to me. And that's kind of, like I said, that's what I chose to really do a lot of work around. But as a cannabis patient, time and time again, I have not had the option to choose to advocate for myself. I've literally been forced to advocate for myself so many times that I have now, especially now that I'm working in the cannabis industry, I have really embraced that role and taken on the activist and advocacy piece around cannabis rather than having it forced on me like it initially was. So even though I've been an activist for a long time, cannabis activism wasn't something that I chose. It chose me.
Yeah, you're finding what I found
me
was
too.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like I wasn't. You go through a medical condition, you find the benefits of how cannabis helps you, and it just becomes infectious. You have to share that with everybody, and you just do.
Yeah, for sure.
And also too, like you see the harm being created. By like the cure,
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen friends or people being locked up and stuff, and people are excuse me. Some people have lost their doctors over it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it's never good.
And there's like intersectional violence, just specifically towards disabled women. And one example that I can actually give that's a really recent and like relatively local example is a couple months ago, I was on my way home from Toronto from going to see a show, and my partner goes, "Oh, my buddy is playing a gig in Ajax at this bar. Do you mind if we drop in for the last bit of his set?" So I said, "No problem, that's fine. I'm just going to medicate before we go in, and I'll medicate before the drive home, and it'll be fine." So I go in there, and we come out at the end of the show, and we're all standing there, and the guys are smoking cigarettes. We're in the designated smoking area. There's literally like an ashtray right beside where we're standing. And I just took out my pre-rolled joint and went to go and smoke it. I wasn't passing it around. I wasn't sharing it. We were literally in a designated smoking area. And the security guard comes up to me and he goes, "You're going to have to walk around the corner to smoke that." And when he says walk around the corner, really mean like go around the corner. He means walk all the way to the end of this plaza and go into this dark alley where there's cars coming in and out. So,
really?
Yeah. So I said, "Oh no, I have a prescription. This is my medicine. I'm using this legally. I'm in a designated smoking area. I'm super happy to show you my paperwork. Let me just run to my car and grab it." He goes, "No, you need to be respectful."
Is that the bar?
So
that was
wow,
that was at a bar. Yeah. Okay, yeah,
I know a little bit about this.
Yeah?
They lose their license.
Wayne's here in the background. He's intently listening.
Yeah, so it felt terrible, and honestly, it was like the end of the night. I had just totally like pushed my physical boundaries, and I needed to medicate so that I could comfortably get home. And I wasn't the driver, was the other thing to take note to. I wasn't going to smoke and then get in my car and drive. My partner was there with me driving. He had the keys. I didn't have the keys. And so I ended up walking to the end of the plaza and standing in this dark alley with cars coming in and out by myself so that I could medicate, because I didn't want to get my friend in trouble who had been playing the gig there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Wayne was going to touch. I don't know whether you met Wayne or not, Alicia, or not Alicia, but Liz, you might have over the phone though.
I had this issue before in a bar. I was a designated driver. And I ended up speaking to a lawyer about it. And basically, the liquor board will, if the bar is caught allowing anybody to consume cannabis on site, they will lose their liquor license and face up to a $500,000 fine. So it's not the bar that's being douchebags; they're just protecting themselves. It's actually the liquor board.
Why wouldn't they just say that then?
So they never, the security guy never mentioned that to you.
No, he just told me that I needed to be respectful.
Send a woman down into a dark alley by herself to medicate.
It's exactly like I said. Like if I hadn't been in so much pain and like exhausted and like at the end of the night, I totally would have been like, sure. So you're going to send a disabled woman into a dark alley alone? Try medicine? If I was standing here popping pills, you wouldn't do shit.
Wouldn't do shit. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's brutal.
Yeah. So like,
yes.
It sounds like, oh, like big deal. You got harassed outside of a trying to smoke pot. Like it's that kind of thing happens all the time. Like it's a systemic issue.
Yeah.
And what happens to your dignity and worth when that continues to happen to you?
Exactly. And like at that point I was so exhausted, I just did it. Even though it felt terrible.
Yeah. You're trying not to create a big fuss and big scene, and you got your friend who's, been in there, and you don't want anybody to get in trouble, so you do as you're asked, and yet you have to risk yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I totally understand, if people, there's so many people who, like, can't use or be around cannabis for a number of totally valid reasons, and that's fine. And, I'm not going to, like, be over at someone's house and pull out a joint and start smoking it. Or, I'm not going to be standing in a circle of people right outside a front door of a venue and pull out a joint and start smoking it.
They're going to do it responsibly.
I did one time at a wedding because I was intoxicated and I had a confrontation with the people. Yeah. But I guess like the activist came out in me, but then also the intoxication came out in me. Mm-hmm. And they were like, okay, we'll just take like 5 steps or whatever and smoke over there. But like there were smokers that were standing there, so I just joined the smokers.
Yeah, well,
And just because my smoke smelled different, they, security had to come.
Yeah.
If people are smoking,
your quality improvement of life smoke was more dangerous than the smoke that causes 500,000 deaths a year in North America. How odd is that?
I know, right? They accommodate smokers. Again, one time I was at a casino and they had a smoking room inside the casino. And I lit a joint up there, and the security guard, and I was unfortunately intoxicated, so he wouldn't let me stay. He wouldn't let me stay in the smoker room, so I went running throughout the casino with a joint in my mouth, and they were chasing me throughout the casino, and then I willingly left. But I was like, no, this is wrong, and I have a right to smoke cannabis, like you have a right to have tobacco.
Yeah.
And the security guards were laughing that I was doing this. No cops were called. But yeah, like I was very upset that they could smoke tobacco in this room and it reeked like hell in there. And so I was like, okay, well, my cannabis should be okay. Yeah, sure enough. So it seems like you'll accommodate smokers, but you won't accommodate cannabis users, and especially when it's for a medical reason. Like I could have been having a bowel spasm and I needed to have a puff like right then and there. Otherwise I could have had an accident in public, or you know what I mean? Like maybe that's going to the like extreme spectrum, but in the same regard, like it's something to consider. Like with Crohn's disease, it's so unpredictable.
Totally.
And I'm sure with your disability as well, it's totally unpredictable. Some days you feel great. The other days you're like, oh my gosh, like me getting knocked on the couch with this cold was a sign like to my body, like slow down, right? Because as much as I want to believe that I'm able-bodied, I still have to remember that I was sick.
Yeah.
And that's what I play with and fight with now is like, I'm not sick, but yet I can't discredit that toll that Crohn's career has taken on my body. Like as much as I want to claim an able-bodied persona, I think it's a fraud for me to do so, right? But I'm too, I guess, modest to accept that, and so that's what I'm dealing with in terms of my activism.
So can I ask you a question, Alicia?
Oh, for sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. Turn the table. So I know a big part of my activism, because there are so many different intersections with gender and cannabis and all that good stuff, a big part of my activism is around disability and being really honest about my disabilities and the way that affects me and the way that I cope with them. Is that something that comes into play with your activism very often, or like is that something that you try and like not take a central role in your activism, and what's that look like for you?
So for me, my main form of activism is playing in the courts, and that's exerting a Section 15 right under the Charter that I have a right to be protected in certain incidences because of my medical disability. And as much as like I said, like I want to believe that I'm able-bodied, but I still have this disability card, if you will, that just doesn't seem to go away. And it's like the fundamental purpose of my activism is accommodation, and that comes in many forms, whether that's academic accommodation at a university, at a school, accommodation in terms of the Bankruptcy Act, accommodation in terms of student loans. There's many forms of accommodation that people with disabilities should get, and they don't. So that's why we're kept in this poverty-stricken state, especially being a woman and having a disability. So you're destined to like a life of poverty because you have those two risk factors that you didn't choose. You know, no one wakes up in the morning and is like, oh, I want Crohn's disease, right? Like, it's like this label that is projected onto us. And in the same regard, like, we're not accommodated. We want to believe that we have a Section 15 right under the Charter as a person with a medical disability, but we don't. Things that people like, the way that in which the government has fought me on disability issues in court is atrocious. It's embarrassing the way in which the RCMP lacks basic knowledge of accommodation and what accommodation actually means, and the way in which they treat people with disabilities. They have no knowledge. And so that means that hundreds of thousands of Canadians who have medical disabilities, physical disabilities, mental illness, are being discriminated against, and their rights are being violated, but no one will stand up for them, so who gives a shit? So I guess for me, when I stand up, it's for the people who come behind me that shouldn't have to fight for what's rightfully theirs. Because that's what the law says. So if that's what the law says, why doesn't the policy say that too?
That makes a lot of sense. I'm really, really lucky and really loving working in the cannabis industry because it is so accessible for me. My boss is super, super awesome about meeting all of my access needs. And like, it's the only industry where you can like legit sit down and have a business meeting over a joint. Which works
for sure. Love that.
especially because I can smoke anyone under the table, right? Like, it works out really well.
Nice. Well, we're gonna go to a break. we're going to go to a break here, and when we come back, we can talk about some work. How's
Let's do
that? All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's
All right.
what I was going to say.
All right. So we're going to hear some more of that creepy guy Boris and his song about his special hashish. And then we're going to continue the conversation with Liz when we get back. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show here at lifestyleradio.net as well as .ca. See you on the other side.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Toking on a ball. Wolfman said, "Don't bogart that, pass it along." The swamp thing was toasted, rolling on the floor, laughing hysterically and pleading for more. The scene was rocking as the werewolves moved to the undead reggae band's dance hall grooves. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Frankenstein baked some Alice B. Toklas brownies and cakes.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck, Crop King, and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Hi, this is Al Graham of the Pace Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the Pace Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on lifestyleradio.ca.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
The party would have gone on till we all passed out. But just then we heard a blood-curdling shout. Watch out! Beware! Cover your necks! Dracula's got the munchies and he's totally wrecked.
He smoked some hash,
He smoked some monster hash.
some monster hash.
He was completely
I gotta try some of that Monster Hash. All right, we're back and we're live. And if you missed the program, don't forget you can catch them on the podcast at Mixcloud, YouTube, and other social media such as iTunes. Today we featured the music of the toys, which is a parody with Monster Hash, which is a parody of Monster Mash. Bobby Pickett and the Crypt Kickers were involved in that. And the group is described as a cross between Bob Marley and the Bare Naked Ladies. So there's a combination that's interesting. So if you enjoyed the music, then I suggest that you look them up on social media. Do a search on YouTube. You may also know them to do a song called Smoke Two Joints. You may know it as Smoke Two Joints in the Morning. And then there's Uncle Sam, also maybe known as Uncle Sam, Leave Us Pot Smokers Alone. Tonight on the show, we've got our guest cannabis patient, Lyss England, and joint host, Alicia Yashishin. Okay, ladies, we're into the last set. Just before we went out to the break, we mentioned work, and we just had a commercial, CC Nexus, and we can get some more information on them from Lyss. Well, Lyss, you told us at the beginning of the show a little bit about CC Nexus. You want to tell us a little bit more, whether you guys got any specials, anything like that are going on, where people can find you, so on and so forth?
For CC Nexus, we like it said in the commercial, we've got about 60 different breeders. We've got about 2,000 strains. So when you want to talk about access, we got it. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. We've got Cali Connection is going to be coming back. There's a little piece of exciting news. I'm super stoked about that one. Canuck also recently got a hold of some GG number 4 genetics, which is one of the best strains I have found for my pain.
Nice.
It's awesome. It's so super, super awesome. And
You know, patients are always looking for that because so many patients are dealing with pain issues, and for yourself, especially knowing that you found a strain that benefits you, this will allow other patients to get access to the strain as well.
Yeah, I am also a really big fan of White Widow, and that's a lot of what I've been growing for a really long time. So for me, the GG4 is very similar to the White Widow, but clearer, if that makes sense.
Oh my God, that's funny. White Widow is the strain that I'm convinced put me into remission.
Really? Oh, that makes me happy.
The really pungent, like White Widow, you know, where it has that really like resiny sax to it.
Totally. Okay, so my buddy who I grow with, he actually bred this like mystery seed with a White Widow seed and got this strain called Widow Sister. If you're ever like around, hang out with me, and like seriously, it's like an even more medicinal version of the Widow. It's
magic. Alicia, you got to come to Ontario.
So now you're just gonna have to come visit.
Yeah. No, you guys. What's the Canuck Pucks about?
So the Canuck Pucks are kind of neat. I really like them. Right now, the Canuck Pucks are celebrating the Canada 150, and it's 3 seeds of 5 different strains, all Canuck, obviously.
Now, do they have?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just say, are they all the Canuck Pucks the same, or do they have different of the 5 strains? Do they change anything along that line?
Okay, so this is actually like a brand new thing that I'm working on right now. So now the Canada, that's okay. The Canada 150 version is limited edition, so that's coming to a close very soon. So if you want the particular strains that are involved with that one, I highly recommend picking it up ASAP because there's only a couple hundred left out of the 1,000.
Yes, I got number 212 in my hand as we speak.
There you go.
Thanks, Wayne.
So we are running out of those ones, and then those ones will be done. That mix will be gone forever. Right now I'm working on the Canuck Puck 2.0, which is actually celebrating access. It's going to be 4 seeds of 4 different strains. So the idea is that you'll always be able to have 4 plants for 4 seasons.
And especially we're only going to be allowed to grow 4 plants here in Canada.
That's in flower.
Exactly.
That's in flower. Well, this package here that I have in my hand, it's got Canuck cookies, super lemon haze,
which is so nice. I just ran that. It's lovely.
It is. I tried some down in Michigan once, and oh my god, it was so good. Northern Lights, Cinderella 99, as well as Blueberry.
They're good. They're good.
Good strains, for sure.
Yeah, the other thing that I'm working on right now is we're working on putting together the world's largest print catalog. So we're getting pretty much all of our breeders that we work with to submit all of their stuff, and we're putting it all in one big print catalog. All of the current CC Nexus customers are going to be getting a few of them around Christmas time mailed to them, free of charge. So that will be super awesome. I know a lot of our customers really like being able to have access to catalogs to be able to pull out so they can keep the seeds in a really safe spot. Yeah. And then people are able to kind of see the descriptions and the qualities and pick out what works best for them. Nice. So I'm excited for that to be happening. We've got a sale on till the end of November off the whole store.
Another month still to go on the sale. Very good.
Yep. So that's happening. For True North.
What's the sale? What is the sale?
I think it's 15% off everything. Let me check. I should know this.
Uh-oh.
It's the end of the night, guys.
I think you're right. It is 15%. I saw that on the banner that flies by.
I'm questioning myself. You know what I mean?
Hey, it's always good to be accurate.
Yeah, it's 15% off confirmed, guys.
That's straight across the board, all across all the strains.
Everything. On the retail side of things, for True North Seed Bank, there's a Halloween sale that's going to be coming up. So if you know any folks who want to buy off the True North website, from October 27th at 7 p.m. until midnight November 1st, it's 25% off everything in the True North store.
Nice.
That sale's not for the wholesale customers. That's just for
No, that's just retail. It's just for retail. Okay, that's good. Now CC Nexus is just the wholesale end. True North is your retail end of things, correct?
Right.
Okay. Now, when seed packaging, I guess I'm sort of looking at can a person just buy one seed? Do they need to buy a 10 seed pack? Is it various quantities?
It depends on the breeder. It also depends on whether they're feminized, auto-flowering feminized, or regular photoperiods. So every breeder kind of has their own little makeup. But with Canuck, for example, you can buy a single seed, you can buy 3 seeds, you can buy 7 seeds, 25, and then they also do the bulk. So they have 100, 200, 300. And 1,000.
You do 1,000.
We do 1,000.
There you go, Alicia. You can serve Saskatchewan with all kinds of seeds. 1,000 in an order.
Well, see, so this is a really cool thing about that I actually love is because they do the bulk. You can actually start your own seed company based off of the Canuck seeds. You just go and rebrand them. Do your own packaging.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah. Completely agree. Okay, what were you trying to say, Alicia?
Oh my God, we should talk.
Yeah. Email me.
Yeah, you guys can get together.
Global.
Okay, now people can find CC Next. Yeah. Because there's one other thing I want to get into before we depart here.
Yeah. So Nexus.global.
CCNexus.global is the website.
If you want to get a hold of me directly, it's Lyss, Lyss, at ccnexus.global.
Lyss, now I'm calling you Liz.
That's okay. Everyone does it. I'm so used to it. I like don't even correct people. It's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, I saw you right. Okay. What I wanted to ask you about, and like when I first saw this post, I went, "What?" Okay, you talk about. I'm sort of looking at you talk about your cannabis stuff earlier, how you have medicated while you're doing different things. Now, and that you're advocating things with the Tape Back Tonight. What is the Masturbate Festival?
Well, it's where we get in a room and we masturbate with each other. I'm totally kidding. That's not at all.
Oh my God, that's I love that.
I kind of do wish that were a thing. It probably is a thing. No, Masturbate Festival is...
They have a different name for that. Okay, go ahead.
It's supposed to be kind of a play on pop culture and all about self-gratification. So it's a whole bunch of weird artists. It's all sex-themed. So this was the second year that it happened this year. It takes place in Port Hope. Last year, I did this like interactive art project where I had all these hooks in the wall with different identifiers. So like, I am queer, I am straight, I'm a woman, I am a parent, etc. Everything down to like, I am kinky and things like that. And then people would wrap strings around the ones that they identified with, and it became this like super aesthetically pleasing piece. And then I did a reading from a zine that I'd written about sex. And this year I actually did some spoken word poems and did kind of a ritual.
So you do poetry, you write, you do artwork, and you can show all these things at this festival.
Yes.
Nice.
That's so funny that you speak about spoken words, because for one of my master's classes, we actually have to do create one and then perform it.
Oh my God, so fun. I love it.
Now you got a new friend that can help you out with that.
Yeah, totally hit me up.
Love it.
So do you find that the cannabis also not only benefits you medicinally, but it also helps you to do your poetry and the other your art and the other things that you do that you enjoy doing, your hobbies? Like, I don't know whether your hobbies or not, but
yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, like we kind of all touched on this earlier in the evening, but cannabis really is what helps me to kind of do everything that I do in my life, because it helps me manage my pain and manage my health and also manage my moods. So it helps me to stay motivated. It physically allows me. So a lot of like the visual art that I do, for example, and certainly anything performance related or even just thing, those are all very physical things. So in order to be able to physically do those things and not just feel like garbage, cannabis, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Now, another...
Sorry, just one thing I should mention is the visual art piece that I contributed to Masturbate Festival this year was actually cannabis themed. So I took all these, I got my friend to take all these nude photos of me in my garden. And then I kind of mounted those and incorporated them into an art piece that was like super weird and interdisciplinary and involved like coat hangers and things like that. And also joints.
There you go. I don't know what you call it, alternative art. Is there a name for that?
Sure. I call it like, I don't know, abstract expressionism with found objects.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. What else do we want to touch on? You got any more questions, Alicia?
We haven't touched on your writing.
Yeah.
So take me a little bit, like you're a writer.
I am a writer. So like I mentioned, I do write poetry. And that was something that I started when I was very young. like kind of just hitting puberty age. It was kind of how I coped with a lot of my very extreme mood swings. And I just thought that it was super cheesy, like the little goth emo kid that I was, and stopped for a long time and got really into academia and writing essays. And from there, I kind of delved into personal essays and things of that nature. And then I came back around to poetry. So I still do write personal essays and things like that. But lately, especially, I've been really interested in poetry, and I've been really interested in combining that with the aspect of performance, because I have a pretty extensive theater background as well. My minor was actually in theater during my undergrad. So the idea of spoken word poetry is really interesting, and also lends itself really well to also then incorporating my visual art into that performance piece.
Did you ever get into cannabis poetry?
I haven't written like straight up cannabis poetry, but I certainly allude to it often.
There was a fella years ago, his name was Chris, out of the Hamilton area, and he was a taxi driver, and that's what he did, was cannabis poetry. And he was well known. People who wanted taxis. What's that?
Maybe I should try writing you a cannabis poem.
Hey, there's a good idea. Sure. And you never know. It could be a start of something that just blossoms and blooms.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah, it does.
For sure.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you want to read my writing, you go to nothingexists.wordpress.com.
And you can see all your stuff there, right?
Yes, I do admittedly need to do a little bit of updating, but there's a whole bunch of stuff there. You can certainly get a feel for the kind of...
see that. You got essay. You have your essays, your poetry, art, community discussions. I guess that's like a forum, is it?
Yeah, just different like workshops and things like that.
Yeah, you got some of your art there. Yeah, it says art anyways. Yeah. And tarot cards. Is that tarot cards? It says tarot cards.
Yeah, I do read tarot as well.
We haven't touched on that.
Which stuff?
Yeah, but anyway, okay. All right. Let's see.
I like that though.
There's lots of people who like that stuff. Yeah, I hear about people paying all the time.
It's so true. You even know.
Practice, though, because if that's a personal practice, we don't want to like come tromping in on your territory. You know, I understand. I get it, right? Like, if you don't want to share.
Nah, it's cool. It's cool. It's all good.
We would like love that, but you know, it's your choice.
Yeah, no, I'm always down to talk with that kind of stuff.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier the Greenwood Coalition.
Yeah. Greenwood's a really amazing group of people to get involved with, located in Port Hope. The office is actually 18 Ontario Street. It's right across from the LCBO. So they do things like they have community dinners that are free every week that serve about 100 people. They have these awesome things called art hives, which are drop-in art groups where you have access to free art supplies and free facilitation. And then there's also like open ones, and there's ones that are like specifically for moms and kids or parents and kids. We also have recently done, related to my writing as well, we did these really cool things through the Greenwood Art Hive called Short Order Poetry at a couple of different festivals, where we had a few poets, myself included, who would talk to someone for like 5 minutes, and then we'd have 10 minutes to write them a poem based on the conversation, and then we would give them the poem, like type it up on a typewriter and give it to them.
And probably put a lot of smiles on people's faces.
Oh, it was such a super cool experience.
Yeah, doesn't that feel good that you've cheered somebody up or done something so?
And just like that's what Greenwood's all about at the root of everything that goes on there. There's a lot of advocacy. There's a lot of outreach that happens. We've got some really, really amazing folks who are working for us. But that's what it's all about at the end of the day, is creating connection because creating connection is really what community building is all about.
Yeah, and the thing is that you're building, people around you. You're getting involved in these community events, and I don't know how many of them know that you're a cannabis patient. You use cannabis. People, normally taking a negative look on people like that, but once they learn, like for example, yourself, all the stuff that you do within your community, and then find out, geez, this person uses cannabis. Maybe we've been told something wrong all this time.
I think that I've actually, because I'm very open about it. I really truly feel like it's nothing to be ashamed of. And so I'm totally open about it. And I feel like I've maybe changed some people's minds for that reason, because I'm not the stereotypical stoner who, on my couch and just eats a bunch of crap.
Exactly. That's what the media likes to portray, but we know otherwise, don't we?
Yeah, and I mean, if that's like what you're into, all the power to you. Like, sit on the couch and eat whatever you want. I don't care. But I'm just the opposite of that, where I really, really love to be super involved and super busy, and I literally wouldn't be able to do those things. Like, I wouldn't be able to live in integrity to myself if it weren't for cannabis.
And as we mentioned earlier, it improves your quality of life for sure. Alicia, we're down to the last few minutes here. Have you got a question for Liz before we go to the shout out?
I guess so. Like, what does the future look like for you? What are you working on? What's like one of your big goals that you're pursuing?
That's a good question. I'd really love to publish a book, like a collected works of essays and poetry. And I would also really like to continue to be increasingly active in activism around policies that are being created around cannabis and access. I think I'm really on the edge, especially with where we're going professionally and with the company that I'm with and everything like that. I think that I have the potential to help to change things, and I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm willing to put the work in because I think it's really important.
Super.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Sounds like a great thing that you're trying to build on and go forward with, for sure.
Thanks.
All right. It's that time. It's shout out time. Basically, Liz, what we do is look for you to throw a shout out, promote whatever, a person, place, a thing. You mentioned your website. You're more than welcome to mention it again. If you got 2 or 3 you want to do, as long as our producer doesn't shut us down, you can go ahead and say them.
Okay, I'm going to repeat the 3 that I've already said, and I'm going to give 1 extra shout out. I'm going to do it fast, though. So for any of my writing and the personal work that I do and artsy stuff, you go to nothingexists.wordpress.com. To check out what CC Nexus has going on as far as wholesale cannabis seeds, you go to ccnexus.global. For Greenwood Coalition and to find out about all the awesome work we're doing there, it's greenwoodcoalition.com or Greenwood Coalition on Facebook as well. And if you're really interested in what's going on in the Port Hope community specifically, check out Port Hope Now, specifically the work of my good friend Gareth Vieira, because he's doing some really beautiful artist profiles, and he's a crony like you guys.
All right. Oh, another crony. Oh. Oh, there's so many of us. It used to be, it wasn't very many, but now there's just more and more all the time. Over to the other fellow crony, Alicia, if you guys somebody you want to throw a shout out to?
Well, so I think it's time that I throw a shout out to my dog who passed away on May 4th.
Oh.
And yeah, she was my therapy dog for like 13 years, and I just love her to pieces. But before, like tonight, I couldn't talk about like losing her because it was like painful for me, but I guess I've accepted that separation from her physically. So yeah, I just wrote a shout out to Zoe, and and then everyone like involved in the show, and Liz as well. So thank you for coming on this evening. That's awesome. But
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. Pets are just like our children as well. But I understand lost my puppy a year and a half ago. So.
Oh.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's see. I will be back next week. Kim will be on the program with her guests. We will be live as always. You can find Pace on Twitter at Pace Radio. You can also find us on Facebook as Pace Radio Show. We're on Instagram as Pace Radio Show. And just so you know, Liz, you were flashed across all those platforms tonight.
Awesome. Thank you.
And we're Pace itself. Our website is pace-online.ca. And if you send us a message looking for some free stuff, I'm more than likely we'll send it to you. Thank yous go to our sponsors, the friendly folks at BMA Hydroponics. They're found at bmahydroponics.com. Also, where Liz works, CC Nexus. They're found at ccnexus.global, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. Also, a big thank you to Wayne here at Canada's for supplying Pace with an educational center as well as a broadcast area. Watching the cars go by here tonight. And to our producer, Al Rapp, here at lifestyleradio.ca and .net. And a big thank you to you, Liz, for coming on the program. As the song says, we're always looking for people to speak up. And thank you so much for coming out and doing that tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. I had a great time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we really appreciate it. We'll have to have you come back on again down the road.
Anytime.
And Alicia, always great job. I always appreciate what you do here for the program, and I always love your posts on Facebook.
Thanks.
And I always thank the listeners, and we always appreciate you listening to the program. Thank you, and good night. Oh, don't forget, share us like a good joint, too, okay? Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Good night.
I was working in the lab late one night when I heard the gurgle of a water pipe. So I turned to see my monster in a cloud of smoke, who said, "This shit ain't bad. Here, have a toke."
We smoked some hash.
We smoked some monster hash.
Some monster hash.
It was his personal stash.
We smoked some hash.
We got completely trashed.
On monster hash.
We smoked some monster hash as we partied in the castle.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're